I don't know what's next. I mean, I got lots of games here. I could do Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, anything, really. So, Enter the Dragonfly was in there, huh? At least it wasn't the Wrath of Cortex.
No, man. I'd play the Wrath of Cortex any day of the week. In fact, I can think of a dozen other games I would rather play.
Like which ones?
Alright, you're really not helping right now.
Well, sorry. How were either of us supposed to know what was in that package?
You're right. So what am I supposed to do? Just go in there and play the heaping pile of trash?
Well, yeah. It'd be better than staying out here cowering from it.
Oh no, I'm not afraid. In fact, the last time I played that game, I made it my bitch. And you know what? I didn't even leave it with a new asshole, but instead, a new
cloaca. I know. You've said that before.
I've said that before?
I think so. Listen, you've been able to give games a fair chance before, so why not go in there and show this game who's boss by doing it again?
Because I just don't want to play it. On top of all this coped wreck bullshit, along with forgetting things I've known for most of my life, that amount of stress is the last thing I need.
Maybe this is your chance.
What do you mean?
Think about it. Every time a coped wreck has contacted you, they've told you to keep on the course of playing games from your childhood. Well, a game that you had me get rid of and didn't play as a kid suddenly shows up out of the blue. Doesn't that seem like it'll lead somewhere?
I don't know, man.
Cal, you're one of the most valiant people I know. Which really doesn't mean much, seeing as you're pretty much the only person I do know. But if there was anyone who'd charge head-on straight towards their problems to take care of whatever it was, it's you. Now, get in there like the subpar comedian you are and show that game who it's dealing with.
That son of a bitch isn't gonna know what hit it.
Well, once again,
Did you just call me a subpar comedian?
Oh! I honestly didn't think you were gonna catch that half, but, you see, what I meant was... Oh my god! Cal, if you're not quick enough, the game's gonna get away! Go!
Okay!
Run!
It's time to revisit old wounds. Insomniac Games is probably a name near and dear to a lot of you, whether you're familiar with their line of Resistance titles, Sunset Overdrive, the Ratchet & Clank series, or the Spyro trilogy. Excellence was and continues to be a staple for the developer, as each of their games perfectly show what careful attention to detail and masterful game design can produce. So, when such a prestigious company moves on from one of the greatest game trilogies of all time, and a brand new developer with nothing to their name is handed the IP, what do you get?
Silence is the loudest thing I can say right now. I mean, how the hell do you fuck up a Spyro game? Well, it's quite simple actually. You release it on hardware that's yet to be completely understood, overestimate just about every aspect of the game, and also name it Spyro Enter the Dragonfly.
Now, for the sake of fairness, I'm gonna treat this game as though it's the first time I've ever played it, putting aside any and all bias. I've done something like this once before, and it worked out pretty well. I think.
And full disclaimer, you won't be seeing any GameCube footage in this video. I'm not that much of a lazy cunt. There was also supposed to be a PC and an Xbox version, but due to the negative reception of the game, it was canned. What we were left with instead is this burning trash fire. Thus begins the struggle. Fuck this! Don't look at me like that! That game sucks! You know what? I don't give a shit what any of you think. I'm going through a lot right now, and at this point, I deserve...
Oh my god! Cal, I'm so sorry!
Nothing to worry about. Don't come in!
This has all happened before. But none of it makes any sense.
I'm Drew Peacock.
With most games, problems aren't apparent right away. They usually take some time to surface and at first glance are unnoticeable. Here, however, things aren't as subtle since the first image you're greeted with is this. Yes, that is a loading bar, and yes, it does in fact load a loading screen. Throughout history, mankind has faced many wonders, such as the Easter Island heads, the Aurora Borealis, and Spyro Enter the Dragonfly's loading screen loading bar. Like, Jesus Christ, it doesn't even feel right saying that. The fun doesn't end there though, as pressing start on the title screen can cause the game to freeze for upwards of 4 seconds. That's 4 Mississippi. But okay, it's time to give the game a fair treatment. All I have to do is select a save icon and then I can... What is that? What in the name of holy hoppin' dodongos is that? Do you mean to tell me that someone had enough time to model this, pose it, and then save it as an icon without anyone complaining about how terrible it is? And that's just 1 out of 11, not including Spyro because he doesn't look too bad, shoddy save icons. So obviously, it ended up being the one that I chose.
Wow!
It's just a float, you scaredy cat.
Yeah, it's only a float resembling a genocidal maniac that attempted to wipe out the entire dragon species starting with the young. Like, come on man, chill. So, it's the annual celebration where all of the young dragons receive their very own dragonflies, and everyone's here along with all sorts of festivities like cake, balloons, and an Agent 9 float with bulging eyes that don't have pupils. And yeah, Ripto shows up, has a stroke, scatters all of the dragonflies, and the game begins, marking my descent into madness. I will say though, the game wastes no time getting things moving, as you're immediately given free reign of Spyro to do whatever you please. Until, of course, you hit a tutorial. All 12 of them. And right off the bat, you're gonna notice something that's pretty jarring. Spyro moves without any weight, and forgive me for comparing this to the previous games of the same series, but in any of those, Spyro's movement had a sense of pull to it. And when I say that, I mean it felt akin to actual movement. Here though, I really don't understand what the hell's going on, since it doesn't feel like you're controlling a dragon, but more like you're driving a car. It sure as hell doesn't help the situation when this happens, like, what the fuck, man? He's straight up Supermaning around. Wait, no, he's Heiling Hitler. Spyro the Dragon is Heiling Hitler.
Now you may be thinking, hey, the game was rushed, it didn't have time to be finished, stop dogging it for stuff like that. Yeah, alright. I'll just have to judge it on the grounds of being a mess.
You know, a wise man once explained Spyro's movement in this game like pushing a brick through dirt, until the brick just takes off into anti-gravity mode. So, the overall objective of the game is to run around 8, count 'em 8, total realms and collect whatever loot and dragonflies you may find. At its core, the gameplay is pure Spyro the Dragon, more specifically Spyro 3, as you're tasked with finding incredibly annoying dragonflies that flee at the sight of you. In fact, the game is so Spyro 3 that I'd really have no issue believing the reason it's so incredibly broken is because it runs on an engine designed for the goddamn PlayStation. Where I'd normally praise the airtight controls and beautiful graphics, I can't here. Whenever Spyro moves, there's no feedback. It doesn't matter if you smash through a vase, an enemy, or even a wall. Speaking of smashing vases, what the hell's up with this sound design? Most of, if not all, the assets are ripped straight from the previous games, but whoever was overseeing the audio must have been dropping some serious quaaludes, because breaking a metal vase results in the sound of glass being smashed.
I have no comment to give.
It doesn't help that the frame rate is about erratic as a chihuahua, constantly bouncing between chugging and chugging a little bit less, which at times makes any and all button inputs delayed. And the most amazing thing is, if there wasn't an overabundance of pointless particles or useless fog, things might not have run so bad. But even so, horrible frame rate or not, there's no fixing the severe lack of just about anything right. Levels themselves look and play like they were incoherently slapped together without much thought, almost as if the development team had base concepts to work around but just never made any revisions. I really get the feeling that they just ran out of ideas early on, since a good amount of the levels here look just like a few found in Spyro 3. Now look, I know the full extent of their creativity is exhibited by their name, but I have two questions for Check 6. 1. Why copy ideas from Spyro 3? I'm an avid fan of the game myself, but if there's one thing I know, a lot of people don't like it. For some reason, I don't fucking know. 2. If you decided to copy them, which let's be honest, you fucking did, why not make sure it was done to a T? It was already pretty much confirmed that an asshole like myself would find something to complain about in regards to it, so why not just go the extra mile? It's a real Wrath of Cortex complex. The developers were too incompetent to do anything fresh, so they just ripped off the third installment of the series. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this game is anywhere near Spyro 3's greatness, because if anything, it's more akin to what Spyro 3 would have been like had Insomniac gotten a team of chimpanzees to make the game. Actually, no. That probably would have been better. The state of the game isn't helped by the incessant bugs that show up at random times. I don't think I've ever played a game quite as broken as this, and I've played some broken games before. Dead Island? Yeah, played it. Wasn't this bad. New Vegas on the 360? Yeah, played it. Wasn't this bad. Crash Twinsanity? This makes Twinsanity look like a technical masterpiece. I honestly think Crop Circle Country is some kind of haunted level or something, because it's not only where this happened, but is also home to some of the strangest visual hiccups I've ever seen. I'm being honest, this level legitimately creeped me out, and as soon as I 100%ed it, I got the hell out of there. By far the biggest offense is that at any time, even if you're just starting the game, you can walk up to this portal, head bash, and fight Ripto. Granted, doing that means you still have to play the game in order to 100% it. Nevertheless, it speaks volumes about the quality of the game. But hey, let's talk about the character models, because a few of them are good, but a few of them are also not so good. Despite looking like a misshapen sock puppet with anorexia, Spyro manages to look the most appealing, which really isn't something I can commend since you see him the entire time. He had to look good, but Jesus Christ. Hunter, Bianca, these inbred farmers, moneybags, they all look like rejected Ace Lightning characters. Then again, consistency is everything, and this game is consistently shit all across the board. And I'm prepared to be told that the game came out in 2002, which, I guess I can't argue that. A lot of games looked bad back then, but even so, games like Sly Cooper, Metal Gear Solid 2, and get this, Jak and Daxter were released a good while before this one, and not only look a hell of a lot better, but also run better. I'd even go as far as saying that the PS2 port of Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex, which, mind you, came out over a year before, looks leagues better than this, and that's a game where shit like this is present. One of the main focuses of gameplay, even acting as a selling point on the back cover, is collecting dragon runes, which allow Spyro to breathe not only fire, but also ice, electricity, and bubbles. I'm not even gonna knock how stupid this whole thing is, because honestly, the ability stuff was done before in a much better way. You don't even get the abilities right away, since you have to pick up the rune, finish whatever level you're playing, return to the main hub area, and talk to this Ben Kenobi sounding dragon.
Spyro, the magic of this sacred rune will grant you the power of electric breath.
This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight.
And what do you know? Besides serving the purpose of opening gates, which you can just easily charge through, the breath abilities are complete gimmicks. Granted, bubble breath is required for catching any and all dragonflies, but besides using electricity to light these rods, or ice breath to freeze these annoying dragons, what else are they here for? There's also one other ability that's just as much of an insult, in the form of the wing shield. It can deflect projectiles and is used a grand total of 1 time. And really, I do get it. Spyro's already learned all of the useful stuff, like how to climb ladders, swim, and head bash, so there really wasn't much left to be done. The main problem here is overselling a gimmick that gets no more than 1 use. You can use electricity to shock enemies so they die. Well, so what? You can just use the flame breath to do that anyway. Within each level, you'll find portals, some leading to speedways and others leading to minigames. The speedways themselves are actually really good, probably offering some of the best gameplay to be found here, but even so, still suffer. Again, like Spyro 3, the speedways include 2 challenges, one being based around completing objectives within a limited amount of time, and the other being a race. The trials themselves are fine, in fact, I have no complaints and actually found myself enjoying them, but the races just flat out suck. If you even want to remotely get first place, you're required to hit every speed boost along the way, which is easier said than done since Spyro's movement during flight is very sensitive. Seriously, one misplaced nudge of the analog stick can result in him darting across the screen, and when you're trying to fly through a speed power-up, that's something you don't want to deal with. Now for the minigames. Oh Jesus, the minigames.
Do you hate the Spyro 3 minigames? Well, if you do, you're gonna hate the minigames in Enter the Dragonfly, because they all share in the same problem of control, overall game performance, and really just not being any fun.
Whether you're abducting cows, racing against Hunter to catch mana rays, or ascending rotating platforms, you can always remember that there are much better games than this. Oh, that's just beautiful. They really should have renamed the game Spyro Goes to Hell.
Impressive, most impressive. But you are not a slider yet.
Hang on a minute. Did he just quote Darth Vader? Well, yeah, it actually turns out that the game is chock full of random Star Wars references, whether it be the name of an NPC, a dragonfly, or like you just saw, weird quotes, there's plenty to be found here. The fact that Check 6 liked Star Wars enough to have a whole bunch of nods to it makes me never want to watch a Star Wars film again. And that's about all I have to say in regards to this game. It's broken, looks horrible, lacks any and all fun, meaning that playing it is more like a chore than anything else, and worst of all is that it's a massive insult to everything Insomniac did with Spyro. The only redeeming qualities are Stuart Copeland's score, which as always kicks untold amounts of ass, and Tom Kenny reprising his role as Spyro. You ever notice how neither of those two contributed to any of the games following this one? Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? In fact, I feel horrible that those two had to return because this is such an embarrassment. I replayed this game with the mindset of, oh, maybe it isn't that bad. And after completing all 8 levels along with collecting every gem and dragonfly, I've come back with a final verdict.
The game is fucking awful.
Even the final boss fight with Ripto, if you really want to call repeatedly flaming him then avoiding his attacks for a prolonged amount of time a boss fight, pales in comparison to its Spyro 2 counterpart. And you know what? That isn't even an issue of graphics, performance, or controls, but instead has to do with the total lack of both creativity and effort.
Silly Ripto, don't you know magic and dinosaurs don't mix?
You haven't heard the last of me, you little demon. I'll be back, and you'll be sorry. Every last one of you will be sorry!
Yeah, I bet.
And that's the last we see of Ripto in any mainline Spyro game, because this game was so horrible, it pretty much massacred his character.
I've met a lot of people who like this game. Some of them think it's fine just the way it is, and you know what, I'm fine with that. But what I'm not fine with is when people tell me that the game is good and has no issues, because when it comes down to that, my intelligence is being insulted. It's like, how can you even begin to place this game at the level of 3 masterpieces that defined a console generation, and not only that, revolutionized things like loading levels and processing draw distance? And you know what? I'm fine with the fact that I'm probably gonna be bombarded with comments saying that all I've done is ramble incoherently and not give the game a fair chance, and whoop-de-fucking-do. Anyone who says that either A, played this game as a kid and is blinded by nostalgia, or B, played this without experiencing any of the other 3 games.
And that's all there is to say. Spyro Enter the Dragonfly was released November 5th, 2002, and was met with abysmal ratings all across the board. The most amazing part is the game got a greatest hits re-release. But you know what? It's time to finish what I started a year ago. You were the chosen one! It was said that you'd save Spyro, not ruin it! Bring awesomeness to the name! Not cast it into darkness! And now I need to keep you from ever hurting anyone again.